Good afternoon. I'm David Shepherd, and I'm the Head of Market Development for the Refinitiv risk business for the Middle East and North Africa. And I'm delighted to be joined by Hans-Peter Bauer, who is the Special Advisor to the Wolfsberg Group and the Basel Institute on Governance. Welcome, Peter. So, Peter, you've given the audience today a thorough overview on what we think are the sort of top 10 priorities in the world of compliance for the moment. I'm going to ask you, can you just prioritise a little and can we pick what you think are potentially the three biggest priorities for the compliance community going into 2019?
Well, to compromise it in three is not an easy challenge, David.
That's why we bought you.
But let's try. I think what my friends and myself are most worried about is that banks are putting an awful lot of effort, headcount-wise, cost-wise, in particular technology-wise, into fighting financial crime and identifying sanctions violations, etc. But that if we look at the results and the outcome, we think that this money could better be spent by increasing the effectiveness of the overall system. And therefore, it should be a challenge for all of us to think where we can improve the processes, working with the public sector, probably using concerted efforts by creating utilities that everybody can rely on and outsource to, and finally probably also sharing more information within institutions, among banks, but also with regulators. However, this last remark should be seen as a two-way street because it has proven helpful for the financial sector that the public sector has shared information with them, for example, for identifying terrorism finance. But on the other hand, the public sector might be holding back information that could be helpful for the financial sector to go one or two steps further. On the other hand, the hands of the private sector are still be bound in that privacy laws restrict them from sharing information, even if they think this might be valuable for civil society, because those privacy laws stop them from sharing that information without having an official subpoena for that information. And therefore, I think we can create a better and more effective environment for this fight against financial crime in all its aspects.
So, Peter, I think we've touched on this in your first answer there a little bit, but to explore this slightly further, looking at some of these public-private sector partnership initiatives that we're starting to see form all around the world, what do you think are the sort of key critical factors to make these initiatives actually successful?
If I think back 20 years, we as a bank would never have shared information with the authorities, so to speak, the public sector, but would have fought any requests or subpoenas up to our teeth through our legal departments. Nowadays, we are, out of our own initiative, filing SARs. We are screening payments, and when we find something unusual or suspicious, we report it. In addition, we are now getting used that we will even have to report income and assets with us in connection with an exchange of information. So all this holding back information or banking secrecy has gone. I think the world has moved forward and the financial sector has learned that it is our obligation to share all that information that is relevant and in the public interest that to be shared. On the other hand, the public sector has realized that they have to give us some information, for example, on terrorism finance, on organized crime, on politically exposed persons, to help us to do a better job. But there might be room on both sides that this process can be enhanced. There are examples of closed shops where people are now working closer together, representatives from the public sector, be it law enforcement, be it regulators on the one side, and banks on the other side, where people sit together how they can improve the effectiveness on the system. There's readiness, but there also has to be trust and not only readiness, because you can only work together on a trusted basis. So you have to share information among equals and then trust that this shared information will be handled with confidence and will be put to a proper use. We know from examples where, for example, to address human trafficking or the traffic in wildlife or other really critical areas, banks have now worked together with the private sector to identify typologies, to use structures and processes and channels to be better in this fight against financial crime. So I think the financial sector is ready to work closer with the public sector if the public sector on their side are prepared and see themselves empowered to open up and share more of the information that is available to them.
So Peter, what do you think are going to be some of the key areas that RegTech is going to make strategically important differences to what we're doing in the fight against financial crime at the moment? And I'm thinking primarily, what are we going to see short term and kind of mid term at the moment that's actually going to make a real difference from the technology perspective?
We in the financial sector distinguish between what we call fintech, that is where new technology is applied to financial products, and RegTech, where this technology is applied to regulatory issues. And what comes to my mind, of course, is machine learning, because we have so many people now who have to support the filtering and sanction screening process. Some banks employ more than 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people to do all those screenings and then look at the false positives and trying to sort them out. And there's great hope that with the help of machine learning, because this is a standardized process, or what some call artificial intelligence, this process could be improved because machines, if they have all the information, could bring us a step forward and at the same time improve a process that is very manual at the moment. But manual also means that it is not really fully foolproof. So RegTech should really help us to improve the financial crime identification processes on payments, but also on monitoring, and finally even on customer due diligence, where a certain tick-the-box process, I would hope, could be automated in the not too distant future. A great advantage of this machine learning would be that now where we use the human brain, when one of our employees identifies a shortcoming, that of course he will learn and will remember next time. But all his colleagues who work on the same subject and probably will be confronted with the same case will not remember it. When he can move to RegTech, then the machine will remember this, and this will allow us over time a much higher success rate and a much lower failure rate. So I think the industry and myself are convinced that RegTech will help us to improve those processes and comply in a much better way than we are doing today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate having you with us today. Some brilliant thoughts and summary from some of the key topics throughout today, and look forward to having you with us here again next year.
Thank you.